loved the Ohio State University as much as anything.
New tonight, growing concern for safety after an Ohio State University student is kidnapped and killed within minutes after leaving her job.
Well, it's a parent's worst nightmare.
Watching the video of her leaving, it almost gives you chills. This is the last time that anyone who knows her, cares about her, is going to see her alive.
He makes her drive him to a Chase Bank and go through an ATM machine and try to withdraw cash out of the ATM.
We don't often see crimes on video, so you're seeing it happen.
He told her to get out of the car, take off her clothes, and then shoots her in the temple. It's an execution, there's no doubt about that. They found a couple cigarettes in the car, and BCI basically shut down their lab for us, and they did DNA on the cigarettes.
Well, what's he go by? What name does he go by? TJ. TJ?
Never inside of head, bro. This is the first time I've ever seen somebody get the whole life, dude.
They found the gun in a storm sewer.
We don't often get murder weapons, so to get a murder weapon's a pretty big deal.
I was able to conclude the 2 fired bullets that were submitted were fired from this revolver.
I'm standing before you now, asking each of you to put pen to paper and return a verdict of death.
Your wife is in a bar. You said she's unresponsive.
This is what he's going to tell you. How to get out of that situation.
And I grabbed the gun.
Trying to find the first place to put a body.
No, sir.
The only thing they could do was kill him.
You want to say anything? We, the jury, and to find the defendant.
Hello, 911. Yeah, I think there's a body out here at Scioto Grove Metro Park. I don't know if this is a fake or what. I'm afraid to get close to it. This is really freaking please hurry, send somebody.
Okay. Well, is there any clothing? Can you see from where you're standing?
No, it's nude. It's nude. It's bloody. It's got the arm over its face. I'm afraid to get near it. I can't tell if it's fake or what, man. It's about daylight.
Okay. Can you tell if it's male or female or anything like that?
It's a female. I don't know if that's real, man.
Okay. Don't get close to it. I don't
no,
want you to.
I'm scared to death of it.
Just stay out of it because it'll be a crime scene if it's
right. God Almighty, I hope that's a dummy.
The Detective Bureau responded, and we were able to determine that it was a female in her 20s that did not have any clothes on and was laying in the field and with 2 apparent gunshot wounds to her head. It was very strange. That's not something that we typically run across in Grove City, Ohio. It was a shock for everyone involved that day. Probably about an hour or so into the investigation, we received notification that Columbus police were in the process of taking a missing person report.
Here's the latest. A body found in Scioto Grove Metro Parks has been identified as missing Ohio State University student Reagan Toles.
Well, it's a parent's worst nightmare. We knew something was definitely very, very wrong, and we couldn't reach her. And that evening is when we got the most horrific phone call that a parent could ever receive.
She loved the Ohio State University as much as anything. Reagan wouldn't even apply to other colleges.
She was a psychology major. She was getting ready to graduate, and so her plan after graduating was to continue on, and that was the field that she was going into.
She had a great time her 4 years here until that fateful night.
Tonight, growing concern for safety after an Ohio State University student is kidnapped and killed within minutes after leaving her job.
It scares me to go out alone now. Are they going to take me? Like how they took her? You don't know.
It definitely sent shockwaves throughout the community because I think a lot of people could imagine that being their daughter, their sister, their granddaughter, their friend.
Reagan Toles was last seen leaving work at a restaurant in downtown Columbus, Bodega.
Watching the video of her leaving, it almost gives you chills. This is the last time that anyone who knows her, cares about her, is going to see her alive.
No one's suspicious. No one got up and immediately followed her out. You didn't see anybody in the windows on the street start to follow her or anything at that time.
You're walking someplace, you're just trying to get there safely, and I think he took her totally by surprise.
So once he abducts Reagan, he makes her drive the vehicle while he has a gun in the passenger seat. He makes her drive him to a Chase Bank and go through an ATM machine and try to withdraw cash out of the ATM. She is unsuccessful and does not get any cash out. He then forces her to drive to another ATM machine at Huntington Bank to try to withdraw, which she is unable to as well.
You could make out a figure that appeared to be her, and there was clearly a passenger in the car, but that's about all you could see was a shade. Couldn't identify any features or anything like that. We don't often see crimes on video, so you're seeing it happen.
The car stops in this alley, this dark alley, and they're there for about 12 minutes. That's when he's actually raping her.
After they leave the alley, he makes her drive him back to the same Chase ATM. She's able to successfully get, I believe, $60 out of the ATM. After they leave the ATM, and they go get gas at a gas station. The video at the gas station is not that great. It's very pixelated. It was raining and snowy that night, and they parked at the furthest pump away.
I think that there's a time where I think she could have taken off for sure, but I don't know where he is. I don't know if he's got the gun pointed at her. I'm sure he's told her, if you do as I tell you, I'm gonna let you go. Don't worry, I'm never gonna hurt you. And as a victim, you probably wanna believe that.
Once they get gas, they leave the gas station and they head down to the Metro Park area.
It's cold February night, it's dark.
What we believe happened is that he told her to get out of the car, take off her clothes, and keep walking.
I think she thought she was still going to live. He's releasing her. Run, go.
But he got out of the car, follows her, and shoots her in the back of the head. I think he walks up to her, puts the gun to her temple, and makes sure she's dead.
He marched her to her death.
It's an execution, there's no doubt about that.
The first break in the case came thanks to a license plate reader connected to a police database that spotted Reagan's car.
They could see that there was scorch marks on the front seat, like somebody tried to burn it.
They found a couple of cigarettes in the car. And we had Detective Forney call her family and friends.
We said, hey, does Reagan smoke? And they said, no, she doesn't even allow anybody to smoke inside her car. So we immediately shipped that cigarette butt off to Ohio BCI to have it tested for any DNA.
We asked them to do a rush on the cigarettes, and BCI basically shut down the lab for us. And they did DNA on the cigarettes.
And then there's a gas can in the trunk. So they start investigating, where did this gas can come from?
And we ended up at the Speedway gas station where that exact gas can was sold.
And there he was, about a half hour after police believe Reagan had been killed.
There's a video of him engaging in that transaction at the gas station, having the plan later to set the car on fire, destroying that as evidence. And that was a very key thing in the case.
Even before we had the DNA, we had the video at the Speedway.
And then, a short time later, the crime lab called with the DNA results.
I mean, it was within hours, which is truly tremendous.
Good morning, everyone. Late last night, I received a call from the lead BCI forensic scientist with a match on items in the car with a registered sex offender. His name is Brian Lee Golsby.
It was the same person seen on the gas station video. but he would offer a much different version of what happened that night.
Family and friends are gathered at Maumee United Methodist Church to honor the life of the Ohio State senior who died a week ago.
This, of course, is going to be a very tough day for everyone who knew her.
We certainly never, ever would have dreamed in our worst nightmares that this would happen to our family. When you just try to do the right thing and live a simple, humble, private life, you just don't expect things like this.
It was surreal. It made absolutely no sense that somebody would hurt her because everybody loved her, and we frankly were in a state of shock.
Brian Golsby was taken into custody without incident by Grove City Police.
Got on here real quick.
Golsby was on probation for another attempted rape and robbery. He had a long criminal record going all the way back to when he was a juvenile. He was a sex offender.
We found out that my office had handled a case of his, 6 years before.
A remarkably similar case in which Golsby had abducted a woman, forced her to take out money from an ATM machine, and then raped her, but let her go. Prosecutors offered him a plea bargain, and he served 6 years in prison.
We pulled the file, called the prosecutor who had done the case, tried to have him explain why on a rape case he only got 6 years. He explained to us that the victim didn't want to go through testimony, and that's why they cut the deal.
He was in the system. They had a file on him. He had been released the previous November. He was a previously convicted violent offender that was wearing an ankle monitor, who basically was roaming about Columbus, unchecked, unmonitored. He should have never crossed paths with my daughter.
He would stay out past curfew. He was going to places where he probably should not have been going.
It's unacceptable. One would think that there's an immediate alert that goes off and an officer is sent to investigate and find out what the situation is.
But what we found was that no one was really closely tracking his whereabouts. There weren't guardrails put into place to ensure where he was going or that he wouldn't reoffend because his previous conviction was for a violent crime.
The night that he killed Reagan, he did get on the CODA bus system, him getting on the bus and then getting off in the area where the GPS then picks him up and starts to follow him as he just aimlessly walks around.
We could track his movements the whole night, which was pretty chilling, actually. We had the surveillance video from the ATMs, from the gas station.
And then to the park where Reagan was killed. And finally to Golsby's girlfriend's house, where police discovered the black Kate Spade purse that belonged to Reagan.
The ankle monitor gave us really great evidence.
Golsby was even wearing the ankle monitor when he was arrested.
It's cold. Okay. We know what happened. We want to know why it happened. Tell me what happened. I want you to tell me what happened. I ain't having cigarettes or nothing. Well, that's what the cooperation is here, man. I honestly, he said I give him some. He give me some. I haven't got nothing. I gave him a little bit so far. Some cigarettes, and I'll start talking. Okay.
It was difficult. He did not want to provide very much information, and he would only confirm information once you called him out on it.
Tell me about the girl. Tell me about why you got in the car. She invite you in the car? Read this. No. Tell me what's going on. I'll tell you everything about that. Okay. You got into the car fight, yeah. You went down to Chase Bank. I drove through some withdrawals from the bank. Right, then go get cameras down there as well. He didn't get out very much. I think it was $60. Yeah. 60 bucks.
What was her reaction when he got in the car with her? Was she scared, nervous, upset? Did she like you? Did she think you were nice? Did you treat her right? Okay, and you told her you wanted what?
He did eventually admit that he had been with Reagan that night. He tried to make statements that protected himself. He wasn't that culpable.
You ever take your clothes off?
No.
Right.
No.
She takes them off then herself?
I didn't have her do it. I didn't have her take the clothes off. I did not have her take the clothes off. Was somebody with you? No. Okay. I didn't have her take the clothes off.
Just listen, all right? You didn't mean to do this. Things got out of control. You panicked. I get it. I understand. You're not a bad dude, man. First, all of a sudden you're doing something and it's going on and then this things just get out of control.
What is out of control?
Out of control means you had to take the clothes off. All right?
No.
Ryan, you did.
No. No.
Listen, I just told you. You get it. We understand.
No.
Yes.
You don't. I didn't have her take the clothes off. I've been honest with you so far, and you still haven't showed me the pictures over there.
It's just a fur. It's just a fur.
You don't want to see that now. No, there's an accident. What is this accident y'all keep talking about? Y'all keep talking about an accident.
You shot her.
I ain't shoot nobody, man. Man, listen, man, I didn't shoot nobody, man. I ain't do nothing. I ain't shoot nobody, man.
Why are you not telling her that part of the story?
Because I didn't shoot anybody.
You did. When's the last time you shot a gun?
I've never shot a gun.
Never. So you let her out, right? And she is found naked and dead there the next day.
Okay.
All right? And you leave. It's freezing cold. Listen, Brian.
I don't shoot nobody.
All right, just listen. It's freezing cold out. So let's just listen. If we go along with your story, all right? You let her out. It's freezing cold out, and you leave. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes.
What's she gonna do?
I don't know what she does.
After talking to him for several hours, we knew that he was not going to be 100% truthful with us. We left the room for a short break and to give him a break as well.
They returned with a plan to get the truth.
Just for two double cheeseburgers is what he wanted.
Criminals never surprise me. Some come in and think they're smarter than us.
I don't disrespect y'all or none of that. You know, I respect what y'all do because I had a job to protect society. You know, I didn't kill this woman. I really did.
If he's not going to admit to doing this, then maybe he will admit to being there, but someone else being involved. So we interjected a possible storyline for him to use at that point.
If there's a second dude, now's the time to tell me. Even if you don't want to tell me the name, I need to know if there was a second dude in the car.
He bought into that right away, and when he knew that we had a lot of information putting him in the locations, then he started saying, well, okay, I was there, but this person that I knew from middle school was threatening my family.
So did he tell you to go out and get a girl? Huh? Whose idea was it to go get the girl? It wasn't to specifically get a specific person. It was to get money. Yes. How much money did he expect? He told me he needed about $2,000, $3,000 tonight, or if he's gonna go get my man. Okay.
And then he would give us a little bit more information and a little bit more information.
Oh, what's he go by? What name does he go by? TJ. TJ? Is he black guy? Tall, skinny, fat, round? He ain't fat. He's like
I really got it. He's about 5'11", 6 foot, roughly like 210, 220 at the most.
His name was TJ, and he made me do it. He made me rob her, he made me rape her, and he killed her.
He said, all I want to do is live. I got you, I got you, I got you. She's screaming. She says, I just want to leave. I just want to go home. He told the bitch, shut up. She ain't seen nothing for the whole rest of the car ride.
You get down to the park, what happened?
We got there. He says, you get out.
To
I'm
do?
like, to me. I'm like, what's up? He says, you take off all your clothes. I'm like, well, what is you doing, bro? He says, we'll let her go. He follows her. Get behind her. She got her hands up. And he shoots her back in the head the first time. She falls. He shot her again when she landed on her gun. He shot her inside her head, bro. This is the first time I've ever seen somebody get killed in my whole life, dude.
I mean, it's not unheard of to have a second person involved that we didn't know about. Is there a TJ?
We saturated the area where he said that this TJ person hung out, and nobody could come up with anyone even close to TJ.
TJ was complete fiction.
His level of detail and what we knew matched up perfectly and exactly. So we knew that we had the right person. But we still needed to find the gun. Occasionally he would ask for a cigarette break. So we would take him out into our sally port, which is a garage area.
See you later. Can I have a question breaks are long? It's not. We're going to go on his information and try to track down TJ, but I didn't get that done, man. I ate too big. I ate too big.
He asked for 2 burgers from a restaurant. 2 double cheeseburgers is what he wanted. And as soon as he had the hamburgers, he told us where the gun was located at.
On the other side of whoever. On the other side of wherever. Whoever. On the other side of whoever.
They found the gun in a storm sewer. They were able to throw a magnet down and pull it back a little bit, and there it was. Matched up perfectly.
We don't often get murder weapons, so to get a murder weapon's a pretty big deal.
Golsby was charged with aggravated murder, kidnapping, rape, and robbery.
Detectives are reviewing other crimes such as robberies in German Village in southeast Columbus to see if Golsby could be connected to those.
His ankle monitor showed he was at the scene of at least 6 armed robberies before the murder of Reagan Toles. The prosecutor decided to seek the death penalty.
Prosecutors said Golsby is a repeat violent offender and a sexually violent predator, and said his criminal history, not his race, is what makes him eligible for the death penalty.
If you're going to have a death sentence in this state or any other state, this is the kind of case that it should be used upon.
We're going live now to Columbus, Ohio for opening statements in the murder trial of Brian Golsby, accused of rape and execution-style murder of Ohio State University student Reagan Toles. Golsby could face the death penalty.
And to have to sit there in that same room with that person who does not even deserve to breathe air was the most awful experience. He's a soulless individual.
He looked at us all the time, but I never could quite figure out what he was thinking. He had no emotion. It was a very, very, very difficult couple weeks.
The district attorney, Ron O'Brien, wanted the jury to know about Reagan.
21-year-old Ohio State University student from the Toledo area, psychology major who was looking to graduate in May of last year, who never made that graduation because she was executed point blank in the head, the handgun.
Especially since the state was seeking the death penalty, we wanted to make sure the jury knew and understood what a terrible, brutal, horrific crime this was.
He continued to lie and blame his fellow TJ. He claimed that he was forced to rape her by this mysterious TJ. And we'll play you the series of lies that he told those Grove City detectives trying to covering up his tracks. Thank you for your attention, and we look forward to presenting that evidence to satisfy you with your burden. Thank you.
Golsby was represented by two public defenders, Diane Menashe and Court Goddardam.
We were up against two very accomplished, phenomenal defense counsel, and they showed it throughout this case from the very beginning.
The presumption of innocence remains with Mr. Golsby throughout this trial. There will be evidence presented by the state in this trial that we may not contest. We do not have to present any witnesses on our own, and we don't plan to present any at this point in time. We have no burden of proof whatsoever.
They were going to make us prove our case.
The prosecutors played long stretches of the interrogation of Brian Golsby. His claims about TJ.
He's about 5'11", 6 foot.
And his description of the last words he heard from Reagan.
She said, all I want to do is live.
All I want to do is live.
Correct.
And there was testimony about the gun recovered from the sewer, linked to the bullets removed from Reagan's body.
And were you able to tell if those fired bullets were fired from that exact gun?
Yes, I was able to conclude the two fired bullets that were submitted were fired from this revolver.
And the prosecution may call its next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Hadashade Jackson.
But the prosecution's strongest witnesses were the women in Brian Golsby's life who agreed to testify against him.
Is that person here in court today?
Yes.
Would you tell us, for the record, where he's sitting?
He's sitting on the right hand of the court, wearing a white t-shirt.
Okay, and for the record, to be the defendant.
That's correct.
She was at first a little uncooperative, but we were able to convince her, hey, this is the right thing to do, and she finally agreed to it.
I have a paper bag here, Ms. Jackson, that in marked for purposes of identification as State's Exhibit I, and I'm going to remove the contents, which is a black purse that says Kate Spade on the side. Does that item look familiar to you?
That's the purse.
The purse Reagan Tokes had with her the night she was murdered, that Golsby had given to his girlfriend as a gift.
And did he tell you where he got it?
No.
Okay.
On the final day of the state's case, prosecutors brought in two more women who had relationships with Brian Golsby, starting with the mother of his 6-year-old daughter.
My name is Jennifer Nicole.
She invoked an Ohio law that keeps witnesses' faces from being shown.
After his arrest, did you visit him in the jail?
Yes.
Will you tell the jury the circumstances of that visit?
I said, did you rape Reagan? He shook his head like this. I started to cry.
So indicating yes for the
Yes. And I asked him if he killed her. He shook his head yes. I dropped the phone and I left the visit.
Was Brittany visiting that same day?
Yes.
So the next witness was Brittany Stepp.
Are you nervous?
Yes.
Take a deep breath for a moment.
Tell us what happened.
Jennifer was visiting Brian, and she had slammed the phone down. I picked the phone up, and I looked at him. I said, "What happened?" And he just looked at me, and he said, "I'm sorry." I said, "Sorry for what?" He said, "I'm sorry, I got scared." I said, "Did you do it?" And he shook his head, yes. And I said, "No," and I said to him and slammed the phone down.
Can you show us with your head what he did when you asked him that? Okay. For the record, you're nodding your head up and down?
Yes.
In a yes motion?
Yes.
Good morning. Morning. Reagan Toles went through every woman's nightmare. She was kidnapped, she was robbed, she was raped, and she was murdered. So for aggravated murder, you need purposely, with prior calculation and design, caused the death of Reagan. Why are you shooting her twice if you don't have the purpose to kill her? He knew exactly what he was going to do, and that is prior calculation and design. So afterwards, we hear about this TJ guy, right? TJ. Ask yourself if those statements about TJ make any sense at all. TJ does not exist. The defendant is TJ. There is only one verdict that you can return on this case, and that's guilty of everything. Thank you.
Thank you. You may begin your closing when you're ready.
Thank you, Judge.
The state would have you believe that this guy is capable of prior calculation and design. And with all due respect to Mr. Golsby, if Mr. Golsby were that smart, he wouldn't have been wearing a GPS monitor while he's committing crimes. It doesn't make sense. He is not capable of prior calculation design.
Diane's a good attorney, and she stood up in her closing and said, look, I'm gonna let you in on a little secret, ladies and gentlemen.
We have done nothing to present to you a theory of TJ, because Brian is TJ. Let's just take TJ out of it. TJ's Brian.
I'll never forget it. It was pretty good. It was a good move by her. You know, when you give up something like that, if anything, it makes the defense more credible. I think it was a good move to kind of take away some of my thunder.
Mr. Lowe, rebuttal.
Ms. Menashe started out talking about that there's no prior calculation. That argument is absurd. We'd agree he's not smart, but he's smart enough to plan. He's smart enough to know that if Reagan Toles lives, she's gonna come into court and point to him and say, that's the man who raped me. That's the man who robbed me. He's smart enough for that.
Has the jury reached a unanimous verdict?
Yes, sir.
On all counts?
Yes.
If you would hand the verdict forms to the bailiff, please. Verdict, we the jury in this case being duly impaneled and sworn, find the defendant guilty beyond a reasonable doubt.
Almost catatonic, didn't see any emotion, didn't really move a lot, not a lot of expressions. He looked pathetic more than anything else.
The only thing that really was of any debate was whether he was going to get to allow to live or whether he deserved the same fate that he did to Reagan. That was the only debate in that courtroom.
Then the hard part for us begins because the penalty phase is all about the defendant. And essentially, how does the person that's sitting before the jury get there? So it's the defense's turn to point out, this is how Brian Lee Golsby came to sit in front of you.
And so I want to talk about Brian's story. And I know throughout the several weeks in trial, he was always referred to as either Mr. Golsby or sometimes people said Mr. Golsby. But it's Brian. He is a human being. He has a pulse. He eats, he walks, he sits next to me at the counsel table.
The defense hired a psychologist, Howard Franken, who met with Golsby to document the traumas he said he suffered as a child.
I know that he'd said that he was engaging in these many behaviors to cause pain to people like the pain that he had experienced. That's what he reported to me. So they include physical violence, sexual abuse at the age of 12, abandoned by his father as well as his mother, his parents who separated, who hated one another, drug and alcohol dependent mother, and an alcoholic grandmother who lived with them, a mother with several mental illnesses, a victim of bullying, and a victim of gang violence. These are all very serious types of trauma.
Many people who have those problems in their lives, in their upbringing, do not go out and commit the kind of crimes we have here in this courtroom. Correct, Doctor?
Sustained.
What I'm questioning is the kind of treatment he was getting and the failure of the system, the failure of the treatment folks to help him understand why he was having so many problems.
Okay, let me get this right. You're saying that if he had the treatment program with this record that you have recommended,
he would have responded and not continued to commit these crimes?
I believe that's a very good possibility.
And now the defense played its last card. Brian Golsby would speak to the jury.
In our capital cases, the defendant has the right to make an unsworn statement, which means we don't get to cross-examine them. And he doesn't have to take an oath saying, I'm going to tell the truth.
Today, I would like to apologize to the Tokes family for the crimes I committed against his daughter, friend, and family. When I first got locked up, I lied about everything. Said it was TJ. There is no TJ. TJ is not real. I made TJ up because I was trying to wiggle my way out of the crime that I committed. But the only other thing I have to say is, please have mercy on me. That's all I'd like to say.
I think that he wanted mercy for himself, and that was, mercy that he hadn't shown Reagan.
There's talk of a systemic failure. Ask yourself, is there anything at all mitigating about the fact that he kidnapped, robbed, raped, and murdered Reagan Toles? The state would submit to you that there is nothing, nada, zilch, mitigating about the nature and circumstances of the offense. And I'm standing before you now, asking each of you to put pen to paper and return a verdict of death. Thank you very much.
Brian Golsby had every reason not to come up here and stand in front of you and say what he did. He knows what you think of him. I went back in that holding tank afterwards and I told Brian, I am so effing proud of you. I know that Mr. Lowe asked you to kill Brian. I'm not going to ask, I'm going to beg. And it's not something I do often. I beg you, do not kill him. Thank you.
The family very much wanted the result of the death penalty, and you want to bring them some solace, some small measure of comfort.
We understand that Judge Mark Serrat is in the courtroom. We are going to be waiting for the jurors to be seated, and we are going to be awaiting their recommendation for the sentence.
Everybody may be seated. We, the jury, being deadlocked and unable to agree on whether the aggravating circumstances outweigh the mitigating factors beyond a reasonable doubt, hereby unanimously determine the following life sentence on count 1. Life imprisonment without parole, signed by all 12 jurors.
The jurors told us afterwards the decision was intense.
It was tough. 8 of us was for the death, and there was 2 of the jurors, they were for life, and then 2 of them was just even. We couldn't discount what he did to her, but at the same time, the system failed him greatly.
A jury spared Brian Golsby's life today, but couldn't spare him from hearing emotional words from the victim's family.
Regardless of the outcome of today's verdict, it doesn't bring our daughter back. It doesn't erase the night of terror that Reagan had to endure. Most importantly, it doesn't change that she wasn't granted her last wish. And to quote our daughter, her last words, "I just want to live." We know that Reagan is in heaven and evil has not won. We will take the high road and focus our energy on doing good, just like Reagan was. Her beautiful, bright, vibrant light and energy, love and spirit is forever. Thank you.
You asked for mercy, sir, and you showed none that night. You had a horrible background, but you did have choices. And so your life got spared because of your childhood, and yet Reagan did nothing wrong whatsoever, and I find it ironic and yet she forfeited her life because of your background. You get spared because of your background, and yet she forfeited her life. So at any rate, this is a horrible crime. It's sad all the way around. That's all the comments I'm going to make.
He doesn't exist to us. I can tell you, he doesn't exist. He hasn't existed in our world since the day we heard his name. This was about justice for Reagan, and I believe that happened.
So grateful to have all of you here today supporting the Rally for Reagan.
One of the most wonderful things that's come out of this is the foundation that we've created in her name, the Reagan Tokes Memorial Foundation. And we've been able to give several $100,000 worth of scholarships away.
And again, thank you so much for the support today. We really appreciate having you here, and we're so proud of the work that we're able to do in Reagan's honor and memory. She's with us in our hearts always.
But Reagan's most lasting legacy may be the new laws her parents have lobbied the Ohio legislature to pass, the Reagan Toles Act.
There are now consequences, and you can have time added to your sentence if you do not show reform and you have infractions while incarcerated.
The law would have kept Brian Golsby behind bars for another 3 years.
The second phase is getting the ankle monitor program so that it's monitored in real time as it should be. So it's actually doing what it's intended to do, which is being preventative.
And Ohio, I believe, is safer because of Reagan today. The failures that she unfortunately paid for.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, the conferring of degrees.
Reagan's parents and her sister Mackenzie were at the graduation ceremony where their daughter was honored posthumously.
Reagan Delaney Tokes to receive the degree Bachelor of Arts.
A bittersweet moment, what should have been the start of a bright future.
Where would she be today at 27? Would she be that psychologist at the Cleveland Clinic that she dreamed of?
Would she be married? Would I be an aunt to a niece or nephew? There's always joy that you can find with it because she was an amazing person.
And we miss her immensely and terribly, but hold her in our hearts every day.